This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell, and joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zak Vassar, also principal second violin and artistic administrator, Merwin Sue, and the TSO's marketing director, Felecia Kanney. Well, we have a big subject ahead of us for the podcast today. We've got only 29 minutes in which to do it. The idea is marketing. It's a good thing that we have you here, Felecia, because you're the marketing director. And Zak, we know you have a background in marketing as well. So this is going to be an interesting conversation because we're talking about the concept of marketing classical music, which presents, I'm sure, its own set of challenges that are far and apart from any kind of regular, commercial media type marketing. So I think that we can really pull back the curtain and give listeners an idea of the intent and the challenges and the success stories that have, been a part of the Toledo Symphony's marketing campaign. Felecia, how long have you been doing this with the symphony? I can't remember. How long have you been here?
This is my third season.
Your third season as marketing director. And Zak, of course, we know you've been here for a couple of years now.
Same. This is my third season as well, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's do this. Let's talk, for people who don't know, Zak, give us a sense of your background in marketing.
So before coming to Toledo Symphony, I was a marketing consultant for 15 years. I worked for a couple firms in Boston. Immediately before coming to Toledo Symphony, I worked for Communique here in Toledo. And my background was really in more analytic marketing. Mm-hmm. So we would do a lot of, if there's kind of a junction between surveys and research and management consulting and strategy, that's kind of the space of marketing I would live in. So we would end up advising very large companies on things like ad campaigns and positioning and branding, how to get a little more oomph out of the product life cycle before a product was going to go into retirement, how to open up new markets and things like that. So
it all sounds very boring, but
thanks, Brad.
I'm sure that being involved in classical music, is much more exciting.
The product is
well,
much
it
more
is.
exciting.
And in my career, I was spending a lot more time trying to find ways to get back to the arts. Working in classical music was something I always wanted to do. Marketing was a way to get there because I wasn't a good enough musician to ever really find my way to a symphony. But it was actually a marketing director of the Toledo Symphony who inspired me down this path of marketing when I was an intern. His name was Mitch Owens. He was the marketing director at the time in the mid-'90s. And he said, I think you have a future in this industry if you're interested in it. But, think about administration and think about marketing. And that set me on a path.
Well, I imagine that you having a marketing background as the leader of the organization, you're really in tune with all the marketing efforts that are happening with the symphony.
Well,
no pun intended, by the way.
I hope I'm in tune.
Yeah,
those guys are definitely in tune.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time thinking about it. There are ways that marketing can be used as a tool that will connect people with an interest or even an aspiration to try something. And we live in an arts world where people who try out the arts usually end up taking something back. They leave different than they entered. And the power of marketing is great. It also can be really misused. Yeah. So I think from our perspective, those of us in this room, we try really hard to find great ways to credibly use marketing to introduce and engage and sometimes re-engage people to believe in a sense of wonder that music can create.
Well, Felecia, we're kind of talking about marketing in the wide sense here right now, but you also, as marketing director, have to deal with it, program by program and step by step. Do you want to talk a little bit about the marketing process for you with the symphony?
Oh, yes. We work very closely with all of our friends in programming. So that's Merwin and Elaine Trudell. And once the programs get set, it's up to me to determine the strategy and to plan the whole season in advance so that once we dive into the season, it's just implementation. And it's really enjoyable, especially when we start planning right around like December January is when we typically put our big brochure together, and we collect all of the artist information and the programs for next season, and then we create a great brochure and launch that in February. It's kind of like this mad rush until the end, and it's like the adrenaline kicks in the entire month.
Yeah. Well, talking about the product, I mean, the symphony itself is a product, and it has a connection to the community. But within the symphony, there are lots of different factions going on. You have different series, right, that you have to market, and some appeal to a different demographic than others do. I imagine you have to change your messaging for the audience.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And when we think about who attends each series, each concert, I was taught to think about the archetypes, like who is this person who's going to be seated at the Mozart and More concert or the Pops concert, and how do they get information? And then my efforts, using the budget that I have, like I try to reach those people in the car through the radio, through the newspaper, through social media. It's interesting. Facebook users are kind of getting up there in age,
right,
and the youngins, like the people fresh,
like you.
No. People fresh out of high school, even college. They're kind of staying away from Facebook. There are other social media platforms that they're engaging with a lot more, and in our efforts to continually try to get younger audience members, it's very dynamic. We're just like chasing people
this has gotta
all
be,
over the place.
Yeah, it's like herding cats. It must be quite a challenge.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, there's a unique opportunity to put your product in somebody's face and engage with them in a point where they're very very committed. You don't want to necessarily go out to them on a social media platform, though, and simply say, buy tickets, buy tickets, buy tickets. You have to give them content that would be interesting. Yeah. And there are many ways that I think the symphony has become very good at creating its own content. Through photography, through videos, through this program, we have many ways of engaging and speaking directly to our audience in a way that I don't think we have in the past.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the fun things that have happened to you in your role as marketing director, right? I know you have some stories to tell, and I have a list here of at least one of your
I have
stories.
One in my head.
There's a story
Merwin's
about
in it too.
Well, okay, well, good. Oh, that's right, you're here, Merwin. Hi, Merwin. How you doing?
I get to be on the balcony today, just like lobbing the occasional comment.
Well, no, you're very involved in everything that we do.
I really think that needs to be underscored. I mean, your humility becomes you, but Merwin, you have a really good head for considering the position of an audience member, a potential audience member, and
really
what they can walk away from a program with. And I think you do that really well, whether it's a classical program or a pops program.
Well, I imagine the marketing begins with the programming. I mean, you have to have a head for marketing, Merwin, when you're putting these programs together.
Does.
I was really influenced by a workshop that an actor named Eric Booth gave. This was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago that I saw this. And he was talking about the idea of arts and entertainment. And I've told this story a few times, so hopefully not on this podcast. But the idea of arts and entertainment kind of being grouped together in a newspaper section or something like that. And how every so often in the performing arts, we very much, feel like one is infinitely superior to the other. Arts, that's significantly more elevated than mere entertainment. And he encouraged people to think about it in terms of two impulses, both of which needed to be satisfied in some way in any arts experience. One, an artistic experience would be fundamentally unfamiliar, challenging, stretching the listener or the consumer. And an entertainment experience would be something that's fundamentally comforting or familiar. And that if you entered any sort of experience and had no familiarity whatsoever, nothing to be comforted by, no structure that you could rely on, the overwhelming number of people who had that experience would be dissatisfied. Yeah. But I think one of the challenges that a symphony orchestra can do is provide really artistic moments that take somebody out of what they're familiar with. Even if it's a piece they're really familiar with, they can create an interpretation that made somebody see something new. And so for me, I've always really conceived of both programming and really the marketing efforts that follow in terms of, if it's a fundamentally familiar program, highlight what's artistic about it, highlight what's original. And if it's a fundamentally artistic program, which is something that may be less familiar, highlight what listeners can be comforted by, highlight what are the, kind of the things that they can rely on. So I've always really felt those two tensions, and felt that you really need both of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems very manipulative, but it's also it's also, and in a certain sense, that's what marketing is about. It's also not so much manipulative as persuading or giving people something to latch onto.
Absolutely.
You don't want them to walk into a concert hall completely unprepared.
And Alain talks about that all the time. This sense of trying to balance the novel and the the familiar, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's you're talking about moments. What I love about this concept of arts marketing, in particular classical music marketing, is that our product is not physical. It literally evaporates into space. And when people come to a concert, they're parting with not a small amount of money, and they're sitting down in a chair, and they're going to spend a couple hours with us, and they're going to walk away. And what they experience in those couple hours is often the thing that we can most activate in terms of what we aspire to create, and why the programming is so important, and having these different inputs. And that's where the moments matter. So, you could have a moment in a concert where you're sitting with someone you love, and you just get a little closer. Maybe you hold hands, or there's a total nonverbal where you just look at each other, and that's the moment that you're going to walk away from that concert with. You can have a moment in that concert that makes you lean forward and just need to feel this more. Being 6 inches farther in your seat, closer to the stage, makes you engage in a different way, and that could be the moment you walk away with. So from highs to lows, and happiness and sadness and love and fear, good programs can take you to all those places. Yeah. So programming is really important because it generates those moments.
Felecia, we never did get to your story. I know you had a story you wanted to tell, your marketing story. Let's hear it.
So after the programming is set, and we have beautiful artwork that we get from the artist management, yes, we come up with a copy and we tell the story, and then it becomes this kind of game of watching how people react to the message. And so part of what I do is I do take a look at the seating chart and I watch, which sections fill in. And one of my first experiences here at the Symphony was marketing the Audra McDonald concert.
Yeah.
This was last year? Was this last year? 2 years ago, maybe?
It was 2 years ago.
A couple years ago,
yeah. And I remember this campaign distinctly. It was a part of our renewal time period in February, March. So we rolled that out with all of the other spotlight artists. And I know that in that brochure we had Renee Fleming, we
Audra
had
McDonald,
Indigo
Kathleen
Girls,
Battle.
Kathleen Battle, yes.
Indigo Girls, yeah.
Yeah, so that was one part of it. And then people purchased tickets. And then we had our single tickets on sale date in August. And then, more people purchased tickets. And then it just kind of stopped for a little bit. And I remember Merwin was running up and down the hallways at he runs a lot. He's really fast. You gotta keep up with him.
He looks like he's fast.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I have bad knees.
And we were kind of baffled that more people weren't purchasing for Audra McDonald, and we would contemplate in our offices about, well, is it name recognition? Do people not know her name? Which I do believe was a part of that, but they did know her face from TV shows, film, and even stage. And I remember we were concerned 1 week before the show. We were like, oh, I think we're gonna get a phone call from their management, a sit down to talk about what we're doing right, what more we can do to, boost sales, because, we all want this to be a success. And Merwin, do you remember we had this phone call scheduled, and then we all sat in the office, and I thought we were all going to get scolded or something.
I absolutely do. I think one of the things was that Audra's representation was from Toledo. And
that's right.
Yeah, so he had a really personal vested interest in making sure this was a success.
That's right.
Yeah, and then I did an interview with her, and all your tickets sold, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
I know you're joking, but
It was like
that sort of
though.
thing does help. And I think we live in a city where there's a lot of last minute decisions that are made for entertainment or art, whatever you wish to call it, Merwin. But the week of is an uncomfortable place to have to wait for.
Every week is the week of something.
So I remember wasn't it sold out?
Yeah,
I mean,
it sold out. Everyone had a great experience, but there were certainly some stressful moments leading into it.
Do you know what did it though, Zach?
What was it?
It was that week we had done a second press release to remind people that Audra McDonald was coming.
Yeah.
And it was probably picked up by all the news outlets within like half an hour. And I was like, wow, this is like...
They missed it the first time
yeah,
around.
maybe it was just, spread out a little bit too thin.
Yeah.
And then within a week, I've never seen tickets move so fast. I think we sold like half the hall.
And I
like
think
the
it's
last
one of those lessons where, I mean, it was so incredibly important when Zach was coming on board, when you, Felecia, were coming on board. We really wanted to make this splash with
that's right.
with Renee Fleming and Audra McDonald and Kathleen Badlow and the Indigo Girls. And I remember that screen just unveiling those artists. And it did. It created a huge amount of excitement. But sometimes when you're doing that, you just aren't able to focus the attention on, oh, yes, but you should also buy the ticket for Audra McDonald at this date. Call this number, 419-246-8000.
Yeah.
I'm just reminding you, Brad.
Good.
I like it.
Let me write that
Nice
down.
job, Merwin.
No problem. But I think it was kind of it was a really interesting lesson, I think, for all of us, where it's like, we got this great moment. We built a ton of energy, but it was really... But we didn't sell as many tickets for some of the later concerts because we were just too far in advance.
Right.
Well, and we get stuck in this world. Maybe listeners don't quite capture the nuance, but we will usually be programming a performance about 18 to 20 months in advance. And so if we announced, for example, that screen that you're talking about, that was at the end of January. And the concert didn't happen until the following November.
Right?
But then the Indigo Girls, for example, didn't happen for an entire year and 4 months, 5 months. And it's these sorts of things are very long to plan, and the marketing plans can become months long as opposed to weeks or days. So it is a challenging concept. I think we've now done enough things that we have data to predict what the behaviors are. So we have some benchmarks. We are much better in our forecasting now, thanks to Felicia's hard efforts to help us anticipate where we're going to end up. And we're just getting a lot more precise, I think.
Great. I want to take a little break and do our quiz to sort of, energize our batteries here. This is a vintage...
Oh, I see where you're going with it.
No,
Duracell.
No.
Energizer.
Energizer. Oh, man.
No, not quite.
Ever ready.
Yeah. No. This is a vintage ad campaign quiz, okay? So we're talking vintage. Pull up a little music here.
It's so delightful.
Ooh, I like this. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
really
I feel like I'm on a Mad Men set right now.
So what I'm going to
like
do...
La La
Another
Land or
sketch.
something.
So I'm going to give you an ad line, right? I'm going to tell you the year or the decade, and you tell me the product. Like, for instance, when I say this is an ad from the 1910s, when it rains, it pours.
Morton Salt.
Morton Salt. Okay. Here's the next one.
I feel
Zach's
like
gonna win.
Oh no! I think Zach has an old soul and is
He
great
does.
with vintage ads.
He does. Oh, look at him. Smiling.
Okay, here's one. Go social with America's social companion. That's in the 1930s. Was it Budweiser beer? Was it Lucky Strike cigarettes? Or was it Ritz crackers? A, B, or C?
Cigarettes.
I'm going to go for Lucky Strike.
America's... No.
Okay, I'll go
Beer.
with the crackers then.
Felecia got it? Budweiser beer.
Social companion. In
Yeah.
the 1930s?
In the 1930s, Budweiser beer was your social companion. They were decades ahead of their time, right? Here's another one. Give mother a night off. from the 1930s. Give Mother a Night Off. Was it Howard Johnson's? Was it Kentucky Fried Chicken? Or was it White Castle?
White Castle. What?
Oh, wait. Were you asking or were you guessing?
I don't know what some of these products
you
are.
just-
No, White Castle.
Like, how would you give Mom
Okay.
a night off?
Well, because you're going to go out to White Castle and get your hamburgers.
Felicia
And smoothies.
accidentally won that one.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a good one.
Sometimes marketing is just great guesswork. I think
Here's
we
That's
saw
actually
an
kind of
example of
true.
that. Yeah.
Here's
No, it
another
really is.
marketing tagline from the 1940s. To wake up gay in the morning, just try this at bedtime tonight. Okay. Is it
Sleep.
Ovaltine?
Right? That's what I need right
No.
now.
But I like that answer.
New parents.
Is it Ovaltine? Is it Coca-Cola? Or is it Lipton tea? To wake up gay in the morning, just try this at bedtime tonight.
Lipton tea.
Lipton tea? Not Lipton tea.
Oh, I would have guessed that too.
Really? That's what I do.
I'm
Okay.
thinking Ovaltine given the time.
Ovaltine.
Is that like a chocolate?
Yeah, it's a
Right,
little
okay.
chocolate shake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here's the
Bunny
next one.
rabbit? No.
No, that's quick.
Oh,
Again,
that's
this
darn.
falls in the line of innuendos. This is from the 1950s. Makes your meat go further. Okay? Is it A, Spam? Is it B, Tenderoni? Or is it C, Hamburger Helper?
Hamburger
Hamburger
helper.
helper. That's like what? But this is like
it
our
ten-
college experiences.
Is it tenderoni?
It is Tenderoni.
What's tenderoni?
Basically,
wow, I
the
feel like I'm
precursor
just, like,
to
not
it's
old enough.
the precursor
I'm a little-
to hamburger helper.
I'm a
Really?
little
Yeah.
concerned
Yeah.
that literally a minute ago we said marketing is great guesswork. We all 100% agreed it was hamburger helper, and we were all wrong.
We're all relatively the same age.
Well,
Maybe that's
yeah,
what it is.
the problem is that these preceded us by about 2 generations.
The ad
So,
for
Brad,
Tenderoni.
you knew this, right?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I did. Definitely.
You're like, yes, I do.
yeah. These are Brad's favorites.
Actually, I kind of wish that they still had tenderoni. They
Tenderoni,
don't
yeah.
make it anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
it's
let's bring it back.
macaroni and spaghetti
Yep.
together, and they recommend that you eat it with fried liverwurst. That's the meat that
Wow.
they're talking
Well,
about.
but I mean, just think of the time, though. That's exactly
Yeah.
the meat and potatoes era.
Okay, so 3 for Felicia, 2 for Zach. Boy, we could have a tie on our hands. We've got 2 more.
How many for Merwin?
Here's a nothing for Merwin. Here's the next one. Why fight hygiene? Enjoy it. From the 1950s. Is it soap on a rope? Is it whiskey toothpaste? Or is it mint Listerine?
Listerine.
No Listerine.
The soap on the rope?
Try
Merwin,
again.
this is your chance.
Can you remember what it is, Merwin?
Yeah, what
got
was
Or
it?
whiskey toothpaste.
Whiskey toothpaste.
Or, like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess
My
you could
morning.
enjoy it. Yeah, when you're like, brushing your teeth.
Enjoy your hygiene.
Yeah.
Whiskey toothpaste was 6 proof, meaning it was 3% alcohol.
Start your day right.
And you
Oh,
could
wow.
also get it in scotch or bourbon.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
No, hold on a second here.
Zach would not go for the
Yeah.
bourbon.
I would definitely go
This
for the
was a
scotch on that one.
1950s.
So you'd alcohol your mouth.
Yeah,
So it's
Kill the
basically
germs.
Listerine then.
kind of, sort of,
Yeah.
except you scrub. So you're
No, but Listerine is
scrubbing
not as
bubbles.
enjoyable
Yeah,
as
certainly
like,
not.
whiskey
Okay.
toothpaste.
Is this still available?
I don't think so. I mean, you have to make your own at this point.
Talk about being ahead of your time.
This will
You
be
make
like a
it-
weekend activity for Zach.
You could just do a little, chaser after you brush your teeth.
Yeah, but you can't. Well, okay, continue.
Okay, last question. Zach, here's your chance to tie, right?
Really?
Oh,
okay.
no, wait. I think.
No, okay,
I'm
keep
at
going,
one.
keep going.
I think Zach is
3, 2, 1.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here is the tagline from the 1960s. Let's eat out. I mean, they really put a lot of thought into marketing back in those days.
That's what I do every night.
And these are all 3 establishments that were active in the 1960s. Was it McDonald's? Was it Arby's? Or was it Taco Bell? Let's eat out.
I feel
Like, let's get ready to rumble.
McDonald's.
That kind of thing.
Uh,
And Felicia has
Felicia
buried everybody in the
wins.
dust.
No, it's because I have a 4-year-old and we might go through the drive-through a lot on car rides up and down
I'm very
75.
impressed,
Well-
but it's humbling and only appropriate that I would lose to our marketing team.
Oh,
Yeah.
is this rigged? Really? You tried?
But they still don't use "Let's eat out," right? I mean, you don't see that as their tagline.
What's your tagline now?
But it's interesting. You go think about the old McDonald's in Chicago,
Yeah.
the rock and roll McDonald's or whatever they call it. That's exactly the sort of thing that would appeal.
Yeah, like the 1950s.
Yeah.
Like Johnny Rockets, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
used to
Johnny
work
Rockets.
at Johnny Rockets.
Really? What'd you
Oh
do?
my gosh.
I don't
weren't the
think I
marketing
saw this on
director,
your
were you?
resume.
No. Oh, this is not a part of my resume. This is like not on the. No.
Did you do marketing? at Johnny
No,
Rockets?
no, this is a college thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
Interesting.
Amazing.
Okay,
More
well-
music. That was so lovely.
We're just about out of time, and it went by very quickly. But I guess we'll give the last few minutes over to this idea of how to market, and this should really be a two-parter because we have so much stuff that we could talk about, and maybe we'll revisit this again in the future. But how do you market those concerts that aren't necessarily self-sellers, like Audra McDonald? That proved to be one that attracted a lot of people who don't normally go to the symphony, right?
Yes.
So how do you market to the core classical crowd and then try to expand that a little bit? I mean, what are the challenges there?
Well, in this day and age, a lot of people scroll quickly and they don't quite read, myself included.
Yeah.
So what we are tasked with doing is coming up with titles that just grab people from.
Got to grab
Yeah.
their imagination.
Yes,
huh?
that hook them right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So like we do spend a lot of time on coming up with titles, and when we create our ads, that's like the first thing that you see. So that's one of the strategies that we use.
Yeah.
I would say we try not to fall into this trap, though, that we ever have a product or a concert that we think people won't enjoy. And so if we take the opposite approach and say that everybody intimately is pre-engaged to appreciate this, we simply need to help them explore it. So think of the stuff that we've been able to integrate just even on our website. We'll put a Spotify playlist with every program on it. So if people want to, they can listen ahead and say, oh, it's that piece.
Yeah.
Having that ability to do that with video, to do that with Spotify, to do that with some of our copy, to do with our radio ads, to talk about things on this program, generally put us in a really good position to help people around that cognitive speed bump, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Not a huge obstacle, but just a little hiccup. And I think it's really helpful. And if you're scrolling through Facebook, putting a face to the product is also really helpful, whether it's a guest artist or it's a TSO musician. Think about the stuff we've been doing with our program books to personify and bring our wonderful artists right on the front cover. There are many ways to engage and enjoy a concert, and if you think that there's nothing on it that is there for you, I think that's a mistaken assumption.
Yeah.
And there's a great amount of trust in the programming over the years, too. I mean, we wouldn't be here 75 years without such great programming over the years, and people continue to come back. So with that in place, a lot of people do come to us and look forward to, even if they don't know what's on the program, they know that what we will produce is something of great value, and they do show up.
I used to say that when I was challenging different clients of mine in their programming, I'd say, you need to have something to help people in the door, but if that's the only thing they walk away with, then you've failed. If you can serve something up to them that they didn't anticipate to know, enjoy, or come to love, then you've really helped them through an artistic process, and it made it enjoyable. So we love asking the question, what piece were you most interested in hearing? And then after the concert, which one did you go away liking the most? And I really think that a successful concert is one where something brings them in, but something else is their great discovery. So I think a couple weeks ago we did the French program. A lot of people came in for La Mer or Clair de Lune. Both were phenomenal, but I suspect that a lot of people went away talking about the Hadley work that started the concert.
Or the chanson.
Or the
amazing
chanson,
singer,
yeah. So, but I mean, that seems to be another way to help people discover things. So if our audience trusts us, and the data show that we have a very loyal audience that's willing to go on an exploration with us, then we serve that up, and we don't make that something we're afraid of, but something that we actually set our stake in and say, this is something that we think matters.
Yeah, well, trust is key, and you don't want to abuse that trust in any way, shape, or form. In fact, it's a great gateway to, as you say, to other pieces that they may not be familiar with. You're building an awareness among your core audience. The same way that I try to build awareness with listeners of classical music,
Sure.
in the afternoons here on WGTE. We're going to have to leave it at that, and we can come back and revisit this later, but I'll leave you with a couple of my own personal thoughts, one of which is that I have to say Toledo Symphony is sounding better than it has ever sounded before, just
Yeah,
in the
musicians
past
are
couple of
phenomenal.
years. As an ensemble, sounding just fantastic, and I hear all the concerts that come to me that we
Yeah.
broadcast. So I can tell you that. And secondly, this whole idea of going to a symphony live in concert, in this day and age, when you're talking about all the technology and how we're swamped with so many choices, most of them are artificial in nature. Most of them are, there's a wall between the consumer and the product when you're talking about music. You're listening to your iPod or your phone, you're listening to something on television, you're listening to something through some sort of media delivery system. To have all those walls taken away and to be right there in the auditorium with all the instrumentalists performing the music in real time, as you say, Zach, evaporating as it moves through the air. That is a one-of-a-kind of experience, right? Which really is rarely duplicated anywhere else. So I would urge anybody who is even remotely interested in having that kind of experience to, think about going to the symphony and keep going to the symphony, right? Because it's something that, just like public radio, deserves public support.
Well, thank you for that, Brad.
Yeah, it's an incredibly fun thing to do, and I'm honored to be working with some great people here at the symphony to share our cause.
Yeah.
Well, to piggyback on that, it's been amazing to watch Felecia build her team and create something that is just it's a Cadillac operation at the symphony. So it's been a pleasure to watch that.
And she also won the quiz. We have to add.
And most importantly,
yeah,
Most
I
importantly,
expect to see that on your resume in the future.
Johnny Rockets.
Right up there with Johnny Rockets. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. And remember, you can check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at toledosymphony.com, their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My thanks to Zak Vassar, Merwin Sue, and Felecia Kanney. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.